Twins win their fourth in a row. They beat the Rangers today 5-3. We're breaking it all down. It's coming up next on the Locked On Twins POSTCAST.
You are Locked On Twins POSTCAST, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up? What's up? Back in the lab, back at it. Another Minnesota Twins POSTCAST episode right here on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Network. You got myself, Luke Inman, at Luke_Spinman. That's the man, Theo Tollefson. He's on X, at Theodore Tollef1, Twins expert over at Zone Coverage MN and Twins Daily. And Theo, before we jump into all the action from today, quick reminder, today's episode brought to us by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers, you're getting $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon today to get started. Okay, man. As you know, I was out of the country for a few weeks. I'm still trying to get caught up on all the action. Maybe we'll touch on that here in a few minutes. But what I do know is this. After a rough stretch, losing 7 in a row, maybe the Twins are warming back up to a degree here, so to speak, coming into today with a 3-game win streak. So you got game 2 today versus Texas. Chris Paddock on the mound. Twins get on the board first. Bases loaded walk by Jeffers. They go up 1-0. Rangers claw back with a run in the 4th, 5th, and 6th. They go up 3-1. Paddock ends the day with 2 of those earned runs. He finishes the day, 5 innings, 4 hits, 2 earned, 3 Ks, no walks, 1 home run on 73 pitches. More on him a little bit later. Correa chips away with the sac fly in the 7th. That cuts the lead to 1. And then in the 8th, 2 men on, 2 outs. Kirilloff sends out a 3-run bomb shot, makes it 5-3. Johan Duran comes up in the 9th, ring him up, sit him down. Twins win their 4th in a row, and they just keep heating back up, really. They're 28-23 now on the year. Again, Theo, I know a lot's happened since I've been gone, but before we get into everything I missed and kind of recap the last 2 weeks, give us your biggest takeaways, kind of your A topics first and foremost from today's comeback win and what stuck out the most.
I would say the offense is resurging after this losing streak. Most importantly, Alex Kirilloff, who has been cold even during the 12-game winning streak. He was not the best hitter, and we've seen him just heat up back-to-back home runs and back-to-back games, that sort of thing. And he's finally just coming alive and just showing his true self. And, there was some speculation while you were gone that when Buxton was activated, he could have potentially been the guy to be sent down, but obviously Austin Martin ended up being that. So I think he's saving himself from having that option, because if he did get sent back down AAA, we know he would win Player of the Week while he's there and then get called back up immediately. Anyway, so that is a good thing. I mean, another solid start from Paddock, only 5 innings this time around, but he's just kept his team in the game as the Rangers just chipped away at him for the 4th and 5th inning while he was out there. They obviously got to Thunderberg, but Cole Sands, who's had a couple bad outings recently, had 2 strong innings, faced the minimum in both of them, and paved way for Johan Duran to get the save on his bobblehead day, which is very fitting.
Very fitting for sure. I remember when they went on that 12-game heater a few weeks back, and even really going back to the beginning of the year, kind of that first month anyways, and I'd have to go back and look, but it really felt like almost half those wins came when the Twins really didn't do much with the bats all game, and then come 7th inning, 8th inning, 9th inning, they finally turn it on, kind of figure it all out, put together these late game rallies, so to speak. That's kind of been a unique quality or attribute to them this year, has it not? And I'm not saying like every win has been like that, but enough to maybe take notice, I think. Do you worry about the sustainability when you're winning, kind of relying on late game heroics like that? Or is a win in this league? You'll just take them however you can get them.
I think we're 51 games in, and you got to obviously take what you can get when the season's been so streaky, going 7-13 in the first 20 games, the next 20 you're 17-3, and then you are 3-7, and mainly because of a 7-game losing streak, but you get out of that with 3 straight wins to get to game number 50 and then add another one on today. Right. So you got to win in them however you can, and it doesn't matter if it's a late inning comebacks, because for a team to do well in the postseason, you might be down in a game like this where you're down 3-1, and it could be elimination, or you could fall down 3-1 in the championship series, and you need some type of resurgency like this. So it's a good sign that they have this. Obviously, in that 7th inning, it looked like they could have tied it up there, but a bad send at third base that sent Carlos Santana home, which definitely he was not going to make that one. But obviously, Kirilloff picks it up later in the game. So there are some things to communicate there, obviously knowing who you have at third base and if you're going to risk that. And I know yesterday, I think I want to say there was a base run named Blunder. Again, the Wolves game blurred me out a little bit from those mistakes because Twins won. But anyway, there obviously some things to work on from this series, and I would say it's that. And again, the Texas Rangers, I'm sure you haven't paid much attention to them until this series. They have been cold and lost 4 straight series, and now that makes it 5.
Okay.
They've been a bad stretch for the defending World Series champions. And if you remember when they were in town last August, before they went on their hot streak to just barely sneaking in the wild card game, the Twins were tearing them apart. So they're inconsistent and they're having the same troubles they were last August, which is their bullpen is one of the worst in the league and it is just ailing so badly. So that is what the Twins were able to take advantage of and another home series against them. So we'll see if they can continue that for the sweep tomorrow.
Yeah, got to beat the bad teams. Got to win the games you're supposed to win first and foremost, and then you go from there for sure. So I left on. Let's look at the calendar. I left on May 12th, and since I've been gone, like you kind of touched on, they got swept by New York. Okay, they get swept by Cleveland in 4 games, which that's a killer alone. If you're going to get swept by anybody, can't lose to Cleveland, especially 4 games. Then they take 2 of 3 from Washington. They win their last 4 now after today. Give me the big picture, kind of the aerial view though of what maybe went wrong the last 2 weeks, if you had to pinpoint, maybe point the blame in one specific direction. Because when I left, the bats were doing their part and then some, really. It was kind of carrying the team. But as I scanned some of these box score numbers, 1 run the entire Yankees series. 11 runs in 4 games versus Cleveland. Did the bats just go cold or was it more than that in your opinion? How would you kind of summarize the Twins' performance the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, they did go cold and it was 3 games in Cleveland, not 4. That 7th and final loss was the first one that they had against the Nationals, which is another blowout loss. I think that was 12-3 and just was not a sharp start from Pablo Lopez. I mean, he had an ERA north of 4 this time last year when he was with the team, and it's looking to be the same again. So I think he's just someone who does better as the summer goes on. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, I mean, I was telling you right before we hit record, that Yankee series was absolutely devastating because the 1 run they got was a leadoff home run from Ryan Jeffers in the bottom of the first of game 1, and then nothing until they were in Cleveland, and 2 of those 3 losses in Cleveland were walk-offs. So it's, yeah, I think
Duran was out. I see Duran had 2 losses in 3 games versus Cleveland.
Yeah,
so it was Duran. Of all people, it was Duran.
Yeah, everyone's panicking because his velocity went down, and fortunately was a bit up today compared to what it's been. But, I mean, these are good problems to have, and he's throwing more curveballs. I mean, these are good problems to have with a guy his age, with how hard he throws. But at the same time, you got to recognize he's human. But it's a bad thing when it's the team in your division that's leading right now. When you get swept by them, that's the devastating thing. Now, granted, they only have played 5 games against them and lost all 5. But you really have to do a lot of damage in this second half of playing Cleveland when it comes to just, maintaining games and hopefully even just getting a 500 season record against them, because that could be the huge difference between winning the division and a wild card spot.
Yeah, well said there. And I remember Jeffers and Kepler specifically, they were scorching hot when I left too. Kepler, 12-game hit streak at the time. Not sure what that ended up at. And then Jeffers was just hitting the snot out of the ball. He was on fire not that long ago. Talk to me about the individuals a little bit more, who's kind of cooled down the most and which guy or two maybe has still had some quality at bats or hit the ball hard despite maybe not seeing the results in the box score.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say Jeffers still has that, and we saw a bit of resurgence today. He had a walk, a double. Kirilloff is obviously who's hot right now, and that's more recent games. Buxton's been pretty good since he's been activated on the IL. Obviously, he was in rehabbing while you were gone, and he just had a couple quick games with the Saints, which I was at covering, which honestly was better than watching that Yankee series. So, but he didn't do anything at the plate and only had like 1 fly ball hit out to him in center field. So, pretty easy going for that rehab, but everything since he's come back, a couple home runs against the Nationals, and just, he's been looking pretty solid. I'd say the coldest hitter in the lineup right now is the guy at the top with Julian. He just looks lost up there. And, he's got too tight of a strike zone that's really just costing him so much. And he's just not making contact that I wonder what the situation will be for him in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, when things are going Julian's way, that tight strike zone is, in his favor. It's a blessing for
Mhm.
sure. But when things are not going his way, and obviously the numbers aren't producing, then all of a sudden that tight strike zone, obviously you start to critique that quite a bit more. How about the turnaround the past 4 games then? Anything you've noticed as far as them doing differently or kind of turning up the juice in any certain department? How are they winning these ball games again? What's sticking out the most?
I would say their pitching's been pretty solid in all of that.
Okay.
Pretty much everyone except Pablo Lopez has looked pretty decent on the mound
Mm-hmm.
since then because he was in their last loss on Monday night. So Woods Richardson, Ryan Ober did struggle with the strike zone last night. His game was not as solid. He got through 5 innings at least, but yeah, that strike zone just did not look good for him. But Joe Ryan, Tuesday night. Tuesday night. He was just dominating. 95 pitches through 7. I apparently committed a crime on Twins Twitter, like, oh, let's just see him start the 8th on 95 pitches. And they're like, how dare you suggest such a thing? And I'm like, I'm not living or dying. I would just like to see this. If he doesn't, it's not the end of the world. So, yeah, the Twins Twitter fan base needs to take things down a notch every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of those cases, and everyone wanted my head over such a thing. And if he didn't, it's okay. It's just, they had such a massive lead. I think it was a 10-0 lead. It's like, why not? Just see.
Why not?
Let's
see what it looks like. Yeah, let's see what it looks like one time, please. How about let's go back to Paddock here real quick, a little bit more in depth here. 5 innings, 4 hits, 2 earned. What do we got? 3 Ks, 0 walks, 73 pitches. Only 73 pitches on the day. I know those aren't, blow you away numbers today, as you mentioned at the top, but how's he been, I guess, the last few starts? And also, like you mentioned, Pablo's kind of cooled down, maybe not looked his, A+ stuff. How's the entire rotation been the last 2 weeks? If you had to give, you don't have to give each guy a grade, but whose stock is pointed up and whose stock's pointing down a little bit?
I think the obvious one of going up is Joe Ryan. He's definitely been the stable anchor in this rotation right now.
Which is
and
for 2 months, that's great to see.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Pablo's been who's going down, and the rest of the 3 are somewhere in the middle. And the thing with Paddock's start today, I think he was limited because his velocity was a couple ticks down. I think it was more like his fastball velocity, I want to say, was like 92.5 miles per hour today, which was down from his usual like 94, which is not a good thing. So that's why I think, it's a close enough game. Our arms are fairly well rested. Let's just, be precautious with this. Let him, have some limitations to see where he's at, because you still got a whole week of games that you're going to be playing straight here against Kansas City, who is hot as well. And I thought they would have cooled off by now, but they have not, as I watched them play Tampa Bay right now, and they're up 2-1 in the bottom of the 4th. So we'll see what happens there. So, yeah, you got to keep your guys well rested, especially when you got a divisional opponent who you took 2 out of 3 against to start the season, but they've been a whole nother team since then.
Rocco report, favorite or least favorite move for that matter, decision, whatever it may be from today's game. Game 2 versus the Rangers, the Rocco report, it says what?
I think we got to just focus on, what happened to the other manager in this game and his ejection there. And, Rocco kind of just keeping even keel, watching it happen, because it was a foul tip off Julian's bat that could have been ball 4, either or. And I think just the antics of Bruce Bochy taking off his glasses to give it to the third base umpire. Just like, I think you need these. I mean, that was something else. I think we can skip the Rocco report, because I don't know the next time we're going to see an opposing manager do something like that to an umpire, that it's just something we needed to discuss. Even though it really didn't impact the outcome of that at bat, it was just a bewildering moment in a very unusual game. I'll say unusual.
Yeah, that's the right word, I think, for today. Absolutely. All right, plenty more deep dive from this one. Plus, we got our nerdy stat of the day. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, today's episode brought to us by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and official sportsbook partner of the MLB. Right now, it's playoff time in the NBA and NHL, not to mention baseball's in full swing. That means FanDuel's your #1 place to be to bet on all the action. Check this out. Right now, new customers, you're getting $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets with any $5 winning bet. T-Wolves in game 3, they're plus 3 points right now, over under, still sitting at 207.5. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on the app that's safe, secure, and easy to use. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a huge win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, and official sportsbook partner of the MLB. All right, I see there's been some recent buzz, I'll call it, around Royce Lewis, his eventual return. Obviously, fans can't wait to finally see him back in the lineup. It's been almost 2 months. What's the latest on his rehab assignment and any new ETA, I guess, as far as, a realistic timetable goes when we'll see him again?
Yeah, well, yesterday they announced he's starting rehab assignment, went out to Buffalo, New York, where the St. Paul Saints are playing against the Toronto Blue Jays AAA affiliate. He's batting second tonight, DHing. That was announced that he would be DHing. We just don't know where in the lineup he'll land. So Austin Martin's ahead of him. Deshaun Kersey Jr., who's been the most consistent hitter in the Saints lineup, is sitting behind him. Well, he was I retweeted video from Andy, one of the broadcasters with the Saints, who's also a Buffalo native, which is a fun fact about him. So good little homecoming trip for a visiting team. He just took some video about within the last hour of just Royce Lewis doing some running drills. He's looking pretty okay there. So I would say this rehab assignment's at least going to be a week. Saints go to Rochester, New York, just a little further down the state line. To continue a 6-game series against former Twin Matt Lekroy's Rochester Red Wings and the former Twins AAA affiliate, of course. So I think it's safe to say, because they'll be on a road trip to Pittsburgh when they're next weekend, and then to the Yankees in New York. As much as I would like to do a feature story with him in the St. Paul Saints the following week, I think if all goes well, best case scenario, realistically, he will join the team in New York against the Yankees, which overall would be best case scenario for them. If there are some setbacks, then he joins them later.
Yeah, nice to just, whether it happens in New York or not, nice to finally just have something we can circle on the calendar, something to put in the back of our mind that we see the light at the end of the tunnel. Clearly, they're just in dire need. I know they've won 4 in a row, but they just need that. He just brings a spark. He brings an energy, both at the plate and in the clubhouse. I'm talking about, and just boost some of that camaraderie again to help bring some swag back to the identity of this team. That's going to be awfully nice for sure. Yeah.
If we want to highlight some camaraderie, though, I think Carlos Correa is definitely doing that in this role right now. But I think the one player that is absolutely thriving off that camaraderie, just of being with one of his fellow Puerto Rican brothers in that clubhouse, is Jose Miranda, in his resurgence to who he was in 2022. I mean, again, his power isn't what it was or has been, but he's just having a lot more comfortable plate appearances, getting better at bats. I think, what is it? He's hitting around 280 after today's game, right? 287, 783 OPS, which compared to what we saw from him last year are solid numbers. And I know that's just a relationship that both of those players value with each other, and just seeing them play next to each other every day on the diamond and just what it's able to do this year and finally having these opportunities, I think has been great. So obviously Miranda's playing opportunities will be shuffled around a little more between DH, first base, and third base once Royce Lewis returns. But I don't think he's going to be the guy optioned down when Royce is returning because of how well he's hitting.
Okay. I'm just looking at the Twins homepage up on The Athletic right now. They got some potential trade deadline deals up here. Before I tell you what they are, I'll ask you first. I know we've still got 45 more games before the All-Star break, but if you had to guess as of now, do you think the Twins will be buyers, sellers, stay put at the deadline? If you had to pick one, what's your gut say right now?
I think last season was obvious they stayed put because they didn't want to repeat the mistakes of 2022, and some things were out of their control. Obviously, you couldn't have planned for Tyler Mahle getting hurt,
right,
as he did, and even though they knew they were getting semi-damaged goods. I think they will at least make one trade, whether it's buying or selling. We don't know yet. Just curious whose byline that is with the potential trade options at The Athletic right now.
So here's what the Athletic says in this little Twins deadline blurb. The Twins are going to be buyers at the deadline, not sellers. They need more consistency from their younger hitters, such as Kirilloff and Julian. They could use another hitter and more starting pitching depth for the rest of the way. Of course, yeah, in a perfect world, who couldn't? I still view them as a legitimate contender in the AL Central. That sound about right in your eyes? And anything you would add to that, or anything, I don't know, specific you think they will look to target, or maybe give up in return in some sort of package, just knowing their biggest strengths and weaknesses on the roster, I guess, and depth chart right now?
I think it's going to be tough because what was an asset coming into the season, which was left-handed hitting outfielders, which they had too many of, now has been something they might want to guard a little more. And I know during the offseason mock trades, I always had Emmanuel Rodriguez, the star center fielder down in AA Wichita, who's left-handed hitting, as the top prospect to give up on this. But I don't know if that's going to happen anymore. And I think with how some of the performances are, they're going to have to reevaluate. It's just going to be hard to say. So, yeah, I think
it's tough. I know.
Yeah.
It's tough. Again, like you said, compared to the preseason expectations, when we looked at this roster, the strengths and kind of the surplus that they had at certain positions, it just doesn't feel the same anymore, even just 2 months into the season now. So, yeah, things are going to be interesting for sure at the deadline. I would guess, I agree with you as well, they're going to make a move. To what extent, and where that ends up on the spectrum of 1 to 10 as far as being a big package deal. Knowing the Twins, it's probably 5 or less, I would guess, on that 1 to 10 scale. But again, we'll see at the end of the day. And again, a lot can change even from now until the deadline itself too, as far as how everything plays out. This is why you play the game. You just never know what's going to happen. But how shocked are you, or surprised are you, I guess, at all the success the Guardians and the Royals have had, and kind of sustained, really, for that matter, up to this point, because they've really thrown a wrench into the Twins' preseason predictions of, they were supposed to just glide to another division title almost by default. And again, what was supposed to be the safest division, or, softest division, I should say, in the league.
Cleveland is not as surprising as Kansas City. I thought a lot of those guys Kansas City brought in this offseason were old, washed up, really good. And Seth Lugo has just proven me wrong and wrong again. I still think they're going to have a midseason collapse at some point. Again, that's why I'm watching their game against the Rays down in Tampa right now. Close. Ahead of them coming here. What is Memorial Day weekend? What am I talking about? On Monday. Cleveland, not so much, because they are the opposite of what the Twins have been for the last 5 years in terms of hitting. They are going to slap the ball, just chip away at every pitcher, and that was the case in most of those games they played against the Twins so far this season. I think everyone was worried that they wouldn't be able to maintain when Shane Bieber was announced out for the season with Tommy John surgery, but they and Tampa are the two perfect examples of franchises that just have these pitching arm factories in their minor league system, and someone's always going to come up and surprise us. And that's dating back to like 20 years ago. Maybe even 30 years ago with Charles Nagy. I'll pull that one out.
Wow.
That's really where I think it all started, with their own development system of just pitchers they've had and just who they've been able to crank out year after year. So they will find someone. They will be fine. Like I said, previewing what's ahead, obviously we still got one game left with the Rangers, but that Kansas City series for 4 at Target Field that comes next, that's going to be something to watch.
Yeah, I got the updated standings pulled up. Cleveland, second best team in the AL right now. What? And Royals, third best winning percentage in the AL. Shocked would be an understatement. 2 full months in the 2024 campaign, without a doubt. That's for sure. All right, nerdy stat of the daytime. Always love a crazy stat or analytic on the show. So if you've got one, we're all ears.
Well, it's hard to believe this, but Max Kepler has played in 1,000 career games, obviously over the Twins, and that achievement was weighed today.
Wow.
So I think, because I didn't do the math and was a little too lazy doing this with time crunch, that's 32 all time between the Twins and Senators, dating back to 1901 games played. And now he is just 1 RBI behind tying Roy Smalley, and then 2 advancing him for sole position, I think, of 30th in Twins franchise history. So, yeah, couple things for him to keep an eye on. I mean, obviously he'll get to those at some point, but just fun little things, that you forget when a player is around for this long. You just get so used to him and the ups and downs that the larger impact is he's been the most consistent player they've had in the last decade, with Jorge Polanco now being traded. So it's crazy to think about.
Dude, that's insane. 1,000 games, man. That's insane for anybody. But man, where's the time? Time is flying, man. I remember when he was a young pup coming up out there in right field, thinking, okay, this guy might have a future for sure. A lot of up and down seasons, but all in all, 1,000 games, you don't get there. You don't get to 1,000. That's a milestone without a lot of consistency for sure. All right, don't go anywhere. We got to preview Game 3 versus Texas tomorrow. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, today's episode brought to us by Prize Picks. Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members to date. And for me and my money, it's by far the easiest and most exciting way to get in on all the action while you watch your favorite sports and your favorite players. All you got to do, you pick more or you pick less on 2 or more player stats, and you watch the winnings roll in. Baseball season obviously in full swing. So whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, home runs, take your pick on more or less and add them to your Prize Picks entry today, or get in on all the NBA playoff action right now. T-Wolves Mavericks, and win up to 100 times your money on the Prize Picks app right now. Anthony Edwards point total for Game 3 sitting at 25.5. Go bet more or less and add him into your lineup entry today. Plus, don't forget, they now offer Apple Pay for quick and easy deposits into your account all season long. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Okay, Game 3 versus Texas tomorrow. Twins looking for this 3-game sweep, looking for their 5th win in a row. Pablo Lopez on the mound for this one. Well, what are the top 1 or 2 things I guess you're looking for tomorrow, especially after them, watching them heat back up, I guess, the way they have the past few days?
It's just got to keep your eyes on Pablo Lopez and how he's performing after that really bad outing against the Nationals on Monday. And you just got to hope he really just brings himself back together in this next start. I think that is definitely the headliner for what you need to look in tomorrow's game. And I think Eduardo Julian's getting to a dire point for himself as well of he could be, I know a lot of people have speculated Miranda, Kirilloff as the options down when Lewis comes back, but looking at the roster right now, or even Kyle Farmer getting DFA'd, I think it really could be Julian getting sent down. Just he's been so cold. He's 1 for his last 25. That's not good at all. So I think it's do or die time for him.
I tell you what, you've done a phenomenal, fantastic job kind of recapping everything that I've missed the past 2 weeks while I was gone. I think my number one takeaway, though, is just how cold, ice cold, really, Pablo has been over the last few starts. That's absolutely unbelievable. Not to mention, like you just pointed out, obviously, Julian being ice cold as well. I just want to point out and go on the record as well. When I left, this team was on a heater. And then when I was gone, they lost, 7 of 8 games. Now that I've been back, they've won 4 in a row. So I'm not saying, Theo, I'm just saying, if you're looking for a lucky charm, I mean, I might be it. Now, if I could just have the same impact on the Timberwolves, that would be really nice as well.
Yeah.
Real quick before we get out of here, let's just close out with something around the MLB as we always do. Since I've been gone, what's caught your eye around the entire league the past 2 weeks specifically, and has maybe just surprised you the most? What's 1 or 2 of the biggest things I need to know and kind of get caught up from my time away?
I think I said one of them earlier with how good Seth Lugo has been for the Royals. You got to keep an eye on that. He had another phenomenal start for them last night against Tampa Bay, and I believe he will be on the mound for the Royals on Wednesday afternoon or evening. No, that's a night game. I will not be in town for that, so enjoy it all you can. But also, just if we go on to stay on the starting pitching front, Japanese starter with the Cubs, Shota Imanaga. I might have butchered that a little bit. He's just been phenomenal, keeping his ERA under 1. It's at 0.84 in 9 starts right now, and he's just been unbelievable. And we're getting to that point when it's Memorial Day weekend that all-star conversations really heat up, and I think, got to keep an eye on those. And if there are 3 Twins, I think have potential to be on that team right now for the American League down in Arlington during the middle of July. Joe Ryan, Ryan Jeffers, and Carlos Correa are definitely making the best cases for that right now.
Absolutely. So glad to be back with you. Always have a lot of fun talking Twins. Twins come back in the 8th today thanks to that 3-run shot by Kirilloff. They win their 4th in a row. Game 3 again tomorrow. Pablo Lopez on the mound for that one. First pitch, another 1:10 p.m. Central Standard Time start. As always, huge shout out to everybody that joined us on the stream. Rest assured, we'll be back each and every game, same time, same place, right here to break it all down. And quick reminder, got to go check out all of Theo's work on X at Theodore Tollef1, plus all the work he's always ripping up over at ZoneCoverageMN.com and Twins Daily. Anything new as of late we can go check out? You've been working on Twins related, of course.
I had a huge injury update throughout the entire system from the majors to low A on where everyone's at and everything I could find with their return time. Some of those players have returned, some of them are starting rehab, so a little outdated, but still something good to check up on before we get to the holiday on Monday. And then I think I've kind of alluded to this already, but I am going to have a piece on Zone Coverage arguing that Eduardo Julian needs to be sent down once Lewis is back, because he's not doing well, and I don't want to see that batting average get below the Mendoza line, which is very close to being.
If he goes down, who's the default? Who jumps into that?
I think Willie Castro is.
Wow. Well, It makes sense too. I mean, that's not a wow like that surprises me. It's just
it's going to be a Castro Farmer platoon for sure.
Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense. Awesome. All right. Can't wait to check that out. And if it's not too much trouble, go like this video, go subscribe to the channel, help us get to 8,000 subscribers. That's always much appreciated. All right. That'll do it for us today. That's Theo Tollefson. I'm Luke Inman on Twitter at Luke_Spinman. We'll see you next time. But until then, signing out.